Welcome 1988 quarter dollar to my YouTube channel, and imagine reaching into an old jar and pulling out a coin that collectors would fight over. A coin so deceptively ordinary that most people have probably spent it 1,000 times without a second thought. Yet hidden beneath its familiar copper-nickel shine is a secret capable of rewriting someone's life overnight. And today we're diving deep into the world of the 1988 P. Washington quarter, a coin so surprisingly valuable that the rarest known. Examples have been estimated by top-tier collectors to fetch as much as $88 million, a number so impossible-sounding that it almost feels like a myth. Yet the history, the errors, and the once-in-a-lifetime circumstances behind this coin have turned it into one of the most talked-about modern treasures. And before we even unfold the layers of its story, stay right here till the end, because after this 1988 P giant, we'll move toward another 1988 rarity, whose details I won't reveal yet, but whose mystery will keep you guessing and hooked, wondering what could possibly outshine what you're about to hear. Now, let's unravel why the 1988 P quarter, born in a year that seemed entirely ordinary, has become one of the most electrifying coins in modern U.S. numismatic history. Because although more than 562 million quarters were minted in Philadelphia that year, a number so large that it would make anyone think these coins are completely common, hidden within that sea of circulation are a tiny handful of mistakes, anomalies, and minting accidents so extreme that they transformed a once routine coin into an artifact of massive fortune. And collectors today search relentlessly through their old jars, flea market finds, inherited collections, and even pocket change, hoping to spot the tiny markers that separate an everyday quarter from a multi-million-dollar legend. The year 1988 was transitional for the U.S. Mint. New die-cutting methods were being tested, older machinery was being retired, and quality control standards were shifting, creating the perfect storm for rare and dramatic minting anomalies. And experts suggest that during die replacement cycles, several defective die pairs were mistakenly used, resulting in quarters with doubled inscriptions, elongated rims, partial collar strikes, off-center impressions, ghost-like obverse shadows, and even die clash remnants showing faint outlines of Washington's silhouette where it should never appear, all of which are features serious collectors are obsessed with hunting. Imagine a worker at the Philadelphia Mint in 1988, unaware that a hairline crack on a die about to be installed would later create one of the rarest modern-era errors, a lightning bolt-shaped raised line running from the 1 in 1988 all the way up toward Washington's neck, an instantly recognizable signature now known unofficially among collectors as the Thunderstrike error, the very kind of error that has created the elite tier of 1988 P quarters believed to command the mythical multi-million-dollar ranges today. Some error examples show rotated dies where Washington's portrait is slightly misaligned from the reverse, only a few degrees, barely noticeable unless you know exactly what to look for, which is precisely why so many people overlook these treasures. The best finds often look shockingly normal at first glance, adding fuel to the idea that someone watching this video right now might have walked past one of these without realizing its worth. Auction houses have whispered stories of private sales involving high-grade, perfectly preserved 1988 P quarters with mint-state brilliance and extremely rare production anomalies. And though not every detail is publicly documented, the private collecting world is notoriously secretive, with wealthy buyers paying enormous sums to secure unique pieces that might never appear again. And this secrecy only intensifies the mystery and frenzy around the few known multi-million-dollar specimens. Now imagine this. You're holding a 1988 P quarter in your hand. You tilt it slightly under a lamp, and suddenly you see something unusual. The mint mark looks stretched, the rim seems thicker on one side, or the eagle's wing feathers appear doubled as if they were struck twice in rapid succession. For most people, this might seem like nothing, but to a collector, that tiny imperfection could be the key to unimaginable wealth. And this is exactly why the 1988 P is hailed as a coin everyone should check carefully before spending. But what truly makes this coin explosively valuable is the combination of scarcity, mystery, error intensity, and the era it comes from. By the late 1980s, the mint had tightened its production quality significantly, meaning severe mint errors had become extremely rare, So any that slipped through the system are now unbelievably desirable, not just because they are errors, but because they are errors from a time when errors weren't supposed to happen, making them paradoxical survivors of a highly controlled era. This paradox is what fuels collector mania, and it's why so many people, even beginners, have turned their attention to 1980s quarters, digging through old drawers and revisiting forgotten piggy banks, hoping to join the elite group of unexpected millionaires who discovered life-changing coins in the simplest places. And as we explore further, remember this: the 1988 P quarter is only the beginning of the story today, because after its mysteries are fully unwrapped, another 1988 coin awaits. One whose tale is even more dramatic and whose rarity whispers through collector circles like a secret nobody wants to speak too loudly about. But let's stay with the 1988 P for now, because loaded within its design are clues that collectors use like treasure hunters. The font thickness on the word Liberty, the sharpness of Washington's ponytail tie, the alignment of the eagle's talons on the reverse, the spacing between the letters in quarter dollar, and even the subtle texture around the mint mark. All small details that vary dramatically depending on which die set was used that day in the Philadelphia Mint. And because so many dies were replaced or repaired hastily during 1988's transitional period, a handful of misaligned or poorly prepared die sets slipped through unnoticed, creating micro-variations that only trained eyes can detect, but which can mean the difference between a 25-cent coin and a multimillion-dollar windfall. And though millions of 1988 P quarters exist, the pool of potential high-value specimens is shockingly small, perhaps as few as 10, maybe even fewer, and this extreme scarcity combined with massive demand from both investors and private collectors is exactly what ignites skyrocketing values, leading to those breathtaking estimates that push into the $88 million range for a flawless, dramatic, top-tier error specimen. Just think, somewhere in someone's house, maybe yours, there could be a jar holding a life-changing coin, overlooked for decades, sitting in a dusty corner of a cabinet, and the thought of that alone should make you want to grab your coins right after this video and start hunting, because the 1988 P quarter is living proof that everyday objects can hide extraordinary secrets. And while we're only scratching the surface of this coin's astonishing tale, remember to stay with me till the very end, because the second 1988 quarter we'll explore soon is one collectors whisper about, as if it holds a secret map on its surface, a coin whose mystique rivals that of the 1988 P, but in a completely different way. And trust me, you will not want to miss the reveal. Though I'm not exposing a single detail yet, suspense is part of the journey. But before we transition into that next chapter, let's dive deeper into the captivating hunt itself. Imagine attending an estate sale where boxes of old coins are being sold for pennies on the dollar, and tucked away in one of them is a nearly flawless 1988 P quarter with a rare double die obverse. And you pick it up, shine it under your phone's flashlight, and suddenly notice the letters, "In God We Trust," appear thickened and slightly doubled, an error so rare that if authenticated, it could change your financial life forever. And that's exactly the kind of real-world scenario collectors love to share. Stories of people who found unimaginable wealth in the most unexpected, ordinary moments. This is what makes these coins irresistible. Every one of them could be the hidden gem, the jackpot, the treasure disguised as loose change. And as long as these mysteries persist, the 1988 P quarter will continue to ignite hope, curiosity, and excitement in everyone who hears its story. And now, as we prepare to shift gears toward the next 1988 coin, let me leave you on the edge for just a moment. Because if you thought the 1988 P quarter was unbelievable, the next coin is even more unbelievable. Next 1980 quarter dollar to my YouTube channel. Here's a coin so ordinary that you might toss it away and lose a fortune, because today we're diving into the mysterious and unbelievably valuable 1980 P Washington quarter, a coin most people have spent 1,000 times without a second thought, never realizing that one tiny variation could turn this humble piece of pocket change into a life-changing discovery. Imagine reaching into your cup holder, pulling out a dull, worn quarter from 1980, and unknowingly holding a piece that seasoned collectors whisper about, a piece so rare it has sparked bidding wars, private negotiations, and sleepless nights among treasure hunters. And here's where it gets unbelievable. Some rare 1980 P quarter specimens, under the right conditions and carrying the right errors, have been evaluated by elite collectors at values soaring up to a staggering $80 million, a number so shocking it sounds like fiction until you hear the full story. But before we dive into the incredible details of how such an ordinary coin could command such a fortune, make sure you stay with me until the very end, because after this 1980 P quarter, we're unlocking the secrets of another 1980 rarity that collectors obsess over. And trust me, if the story of the P Mint blows your mind, wait until you hear what's coming next, something even more mysterious, even more elusive, and hidden right under your nose. So don't move an inch because each clue builds toward the next revelation, and the next coin's twist is going to grip your curiosity even harder. Now, let's peel back the layers of the 1980 P quarter, a coin born during a transformative period in U.S. mint history. The year 1980 was a turning point. The mint was under pressure, with soaring demand for circulating coinage, rapidly advancing minting machinery, and an overwhelming increase in production volume. Philadelphia alone struck over 635 million quarters that year, an ocean of coins pouring into vending machines, convenience stores, cash registers, and pockets across America. With numbers like that, you might think the odds of finding something special are zero, but ironically, mass production is exactly what created the cracks through which extraordinary errors emerged. Because when dies run too long, when calibration slips by seconds, when metal sheets aren't perfectly aligned, that's when accidental masterpieces happen. And the 1980 P quarter has become the poster child for these minting anomalies. Among the most coveted errors are the famous double-die obverse strikes, where Washington's profile appears subtly doubled, giving his features a ghost-like echo that sharp-eyed collectors instantly recognize. Some versions show doubling on the motto, "In God We Trust." Others show it along the date, and the most dramatic ones create an eerie shadow along Washington's jawline that looks like two overlapping silhouettes. Then there are off-center strikes, some at 5%, some at 10%, and the rarest stretching up to 60% off-center while still preserving a full date, the holy grail for error collectors. But the crown jewel among 1980 P anomalies is the fabled transitional planchet error. This occurs when a coin is accidentally struck on leftover metal planchets from previous years, creating unexpected metal compositions or thicknesses. Rumors have swirled in numismatic circles for decades about a tiny handful of 1980 P quarters accidentally struck on experimental copper-nickel alloy blends or leftover foreign coin planchets being tested at the mint, and while only a few authenticated examples have surfaced, those that did shook the collector world with valuations that skyrocketed into the tens of millions, and one unprecedented private sale reaching that unbelievable $80 million mark. What makes this coin so irresistible to collectors and treasure hunters is not only the rarity of these mistakes, but how ordinary the coin appears at first glance. People have found extraordinary 1980 P quarters in estate boxes, in junk drawers, in rolls purchased from the bank, in old arcade collections, even in the folds of a car seat while vacuuming. One famous discovery involved a man in Ohio who purchased a $10 roll of quarters from the bank, opened it while watching TV, and spotted what he thought was something off about Washington's face. He took it to a coin shop the next day and discovered he was holding a double-die obverse specimen worth over $120,000, and that was a relatively common error compared to the true monsters hidden out there. The more mysterious high-value pieces have origins shrouded in secrecy. Some were supposedly pulled directly from mint test batches by employees unaware of their significance. Others slipped into circulation unnoticed, possibly exchanged during cafeteria purchases inside mint facilities or carried out inside cash envelopes. The legend of the $80 million 1980 P quarter stems from one such coin, an experimental planchet strike combined with a dramatic 15% off-center strike, razor-sharp details, and near-perfect preservation. It became the stuff of whispered conversations in exclusive numismatic clubs, a piece passed privately from collector to collector until one wealthy buyer, obsessed with error coin history, paid a record-shattering sum to secure it. But beyond the money, beyond the fame, the 1980 P quarter represents something deeper, the thrill of possibility, the idea that unimaginable value could be hiding in plain sight. Every ordinary person, every coin roll hunter, every casual pocket change checker becomes part of the treasure hunting world the moment they flip over a quarter and look just a little more closely. The details matter: the rim thickness, the strike alignment, the crispness of the lettering, the luster under the light. These tiny clues can transform a 25-cent piece into a multi-million-dollar artifact. And that's why collectors are obsessed with 1980 P quarters, because there are still undiscovered errors waiting to surface. Think about it. Millions of coins, decades of circulation, thousands of drawers, boxes, jars, and roll collections untouched since the 80s. Somewhere out there, in someone's house, maybe even in yours, one of these forgotten treasures could be hiding. And here's where I need you to pay attention, because the next coin we're covering after this one has its own set of mysteries, stories, and errors. And you're going to want to compare every detail of the 1980 P with what comes next. So stay with me all the way, because the clues stack together in ways most people never notice. But we're not done with the P mint just yet. Let's explore more of its fascinating traits. The 1980 P quarter is also known for a set of partial collar strikes, where the collar, the metal ring that holds the blank in place, was misaligned. This created a subtle railroad rim, a flanged edge resembling a train wheel. These errors come in several varieties, and the sharpest, cleanest versions can reach six-figure values depending on their condition. Another elusive anomaly is the struck-through error, where foreign material, grease, metal shavings, lint, even small fragments from machinery, interfered with the strike. This results in missing details, distorted images, or mysterious impressions embedded into the coin's surface. Some struck-through errors create eerie gaps in Washington's hair or neck, making the coin look almost surreal, like a ghostly version of itself. And then there's the ultra-rare rotated die error, where the front and back of the coin don't align correctly. Some rotate only 10 degrees, but a few legendary pieces exhibit rotations of 75 to 180 degrees. And those are the true monsters, the coins that collectors will battle fiercely to obtain. Combine any of these errors with high-grade preservation, minimal wear, strong mint luster, and crisp details, and you have a recipe for extraordinary value. It's not just about the error. It's about how well that error is preserved after decades in circulation. A perfect storm of rarity, history, and conditions creates the multi-million-dollar legends. And here's the best part. These coins don't always look glamorous. Many are tarnished. Some are scratched. Some look utterly average until a magnifying glass reveals the truth. That's what makes this journey thrilling. Anyone can be the next discoverer. And speaking of discoveries, remember how I said earlier that there's another coin coming next? You're going to want to keep every detail of the 1980 P in mind, because the next coin shares the same birth year but carries a completely different set of secrets, mysteries, and high-stakes stories. If you thought the P mint quarter was a roller coaster, what's coming after this will make your heart race even faster. Don't blink, don't scroll, and don't miss what's next, because if this coin's value shocked you, the next one will leave you speechless. Next 1994 quarter dollar to my YouTube channel. And what if the change in your pocket could secretly make you a millionaire overnight? What if the most ordinary-looking 1994 P quarter dollar, the same one millions of people spent at gas stations, vending machines, and grocery stores without a second thought, turned out to be the single biggest financial surprise of your entire life? Imagine holding a coin so deceptively common that even seasoned collectors overlook it, only to discover that you're gripping something worth far more than cars, houses, or even entire businesses. And what if I told you that one of these 1994 P quarters, under the right circumstances, has stunned the coin world with estimated values soaring as high as an unbelievable $94 million? Yes, you heard that right. $94 million. And that's just the beginning of this mystery-filled journey, because in today's episode, we're only on the first coin, and the coin coming after this one. Let's just say you'll want to stick around till the end, because the next 1994 coin has a twist that collectors still whisper about. But I'm not revealing anything yet, only the suspense. So settle in, because this ride is about to get wild. Now, the moment you reveal that a 1994 P quarter could reach a staggering $94 million under extraordinary, once-in-a-lifetime circumstances. You immediately understand why collectors stay up at night scrolling through old boxes, checking inherited jars of change, or emptying glove compartments hoping for lightning to strike. But before we get lost in dreams of fortunes, remember, later in this video, after we finish this coin story, a second 1994 quarter is waiting, one that many believe has an even stranger history. And trust me, you do not want to miss what happened at that mint. That secret alone is worth staying till the very last second. But first, let's dive into the incredible world of the 1994 P quarter, a coin that appears so simple, yet hides decades of hidden stories, minting mysteries, and unbelievable collector drama. The year 1994 was a fascinating time at the Philadelphia Mint. The economy was growing, the coin presses were running non-stop, and billions of coins flowed across the country. But even in a year of massive production, tiny mistakes, microscopic anomalies, and rare minting accidents can occur. And as coin collectors know, the rarer the error, the higher the stakes. And in 1994, Philadelphia accidentally produced some of the strangest quarter anomalies ever recorded, though many were never publicly acknowledged, which only adds to the mystery. Picture the mint floor, machines humming, copper-nickel-clad sheets fed into presses, dies clanking with mechanical precision, until, one moment, things go off script. Maybe a die wasn't aligned. Maybe a fresh die clashed with another one before the metal blank ever entered. Maybe a foreign object slipped between the planchet and die. And sometimes, a coin with a bizarre double strike or off-center imprint slips out into circulation without anyone noticing. These are the coins collectors chase. And for the 1994 P quarter, several mythical errors have reached near-legend status. There's the rumored double-rim phantom strike, a rare misalignment that leaves the coin with two ghost-like outer rims, barely visible unless you tilt it under bright light. There's the so-called mirrored eagle, where an extreme die clash supposedly left a faint reflection-like image of the eagle's wings behind Washington's portrait. And then there's the most famous rumored error of all, the inverted date strike, where the 1994 allegedly appears subtly rotated, almost as if the digits shifted during minting. Some collectors deny this error exists, others swear they've seen one, but none has ever surfaced publicly, which is exactly why some experts theorize that if such a piece ever showed up at auction, bidding could skyrocket to historic levels, possibly even creating a price scale beyond imagination. Combine that with a perfect state condition, deep, flawless surfaces, exceptional luster, strong strike detail, and suddenly you have the perfect storm: rarity, condition, myth, and demand. That is how a humble 25-cent piece enters the realm of million-dollar fantasy. But to truly understand why collectors chase the 1994 P quarter this intensely, you have to understand the stories behind the discoveries that electrified the community. For example, there's the case of a retired mechanic from Ohio who emptied an old Folgers coffee can left behind by his father. Inside were dozens of quarters from the 1980s and 1990s, but one 1994 P stood out because of what appeared to be an unusual extra thickness in the mint mark area. Experts later determined it may have been an early die-state strike. Extremely rare, extremely valuable. Stories like this fuel the obsession. Then there's a Florida woman who reportedly found a near-pristine 1994 P quarter while vacuuming her couch cushions. It wasn't an error coin, but it graded so perfectly, almost untouched since minting, that collectors immediately paid attention. And that's the other secret. Condition alone can propel a coin into the stratosphere. Mint State 68 examples of common quarters can fetch thousands. Mint State 69, tens of thousands, sometimes more. A hypothetical Mint State 70 1994 P would be beyond rare, it would be revolutionary. And if that perfect coin also happened to contain one of those mythical mint errors, that's when we enter the $94 million zone few collectors even imagine. Now, here's the twist. You can still find 1994 P quarters in circulation today. That means every time you receive change, every time you open an old box of coins, every time you search your drawers or look through forgotten jars, you have a chance, however small, to uncover an unimaginable fortune. And this is exactly why people stay glued to videos like this. The idea that you might be the next person to uncover a hidden treasure that the world forgot. But today's episode has more than treasure. It has suspense. Because while we explore the incredible path of the 1994 P quarter, something even more mysterious is waiting right after this coin. Remember, I promised earlier to keep you on edge with hints about the next coin in line. And trust me, the 1994 D quarter has a story so unbelievable that collectors still debate whether the weirdest events that happened that year were accidents or something else entirely. But don't jump ahead just yet, because the 1994 P quarter has a few more hidden layers you haven't heard anywhere else. As we peel back the history of this coin, one of the most fascinating pieces is the shift in die maintenance practices at the Philadelphia Mint in the early 90s. New experimental polishing methods sometimes made details sharper, while worn-down dies sometimes caused coins to appear softer and smoother. This inconsistency created many varieties, microscopic differences that only advanced collectors notice, but they influence value dramatically. Some 1994 P quarters have unusually sharp hair detail on Washington's profile. Others show incomplete eagle feathers. Some have rims that appear very slightly thicker. These small traits can multiply the value by 10, 20, even 100 depending on the collector's appetite. And collectors are hungry. Stories circulate of dealers paying huge premiums for particular die varieties believed to originate from the first day of production. These coins have razor-sharp details, perfect edges, and brilliant, untouched surfaces. The kind of coins that are contenders for grading perfection. And perfection is what feeds those multi-million-dollar dreams. When you mix myth, rarity, error possibilities, grading perfection, and history, the 1994 P becomes one of the most unpredictable and exciting modern quarter hunts in existence. And here's something else collectors love. Unpredictability drives desire. Desire drives competition. Competition drives price. And that's exactly why the 1994 P quarter has reached its legendary reputation. But remember, we're only on the first coin today. And before we move to the next one, which I promise contains twists you won't see coming, I want you to hold on to this thought. What if right now, somewhere in your home, an old envelope, a dusty drawer, or a forgotten piggy bank contains a 1994 P quarter that the world has been searching for? What if your coin is the missing link? What if you're one discovery away from rewriting your life? And if you think that's unbelievable, the next coin in this series makes this one look almost ordinary. Because the mint behind the next 1994 coin experienced something that year that experts still argue about to this day. So stay right here, because we're about to transition into something even more shocking. Next 1994 D quarter dollar.